All right, this way. So 16 years ago, my wife and I were driving down a country lane out in Chester County, this country road, and we're driving by and I see down a for sale sign in like a gravel driveway. So we go down to the next intersection and we come back because we happen to have been looking for a house, and we had this realtor who, even though we told this realtor we want a historic Chester County farmhouse, he kept showing us 1970s built, 1970s split levels that looked like the Brady Bunch house, right? He had no idea what we were talking about. So we pulled down the driveway, and this is a white stucco farmhouse with a wraparound porch, and it was love at first sight for me. We got out of the car, we look at we get up on the porch, we're looking in the windows, the big hardwood floors, the fireplace in the dining room and the living room, hardwood, like there's shelves, built-in bookshelves. It's just a really nice, really old farmhouse. So the next day, we showed our realtor the house we wanted. And we showed up, and it happened to be an open house because this old farmhouse had been sitting on 10 acres, but it was being subdivided, so which meant luckily we could afford it because now it was only on 1 acre. And it was still like at the top of our range, but we offered as much as we could, and we were thrilled when, even though it was lower than what they were asking, they took it right away. Maybe that should have been a sign. So I became obsessed with this house. And while we were waiting for settlement to come, I went to Chester County Historical Society to research the pedigree of this house, if you will. And there were a couple of interesting things. The first thing was the house our oldest part was built in 1732, and we were going to be the first family that was not Quaker to live in the house. So in 250 years, it had all been Quaker families. So a couple things that were a little strange when you're going through all the information on this house at the Historical Society, and you're seeing the number of death notices of people that have passed away in the house over 250 years. But then also in the 1850s, Dr. Joshua Howe had used the house as a home for nervous patients for a couple years, for like 15 years, yes. And so that, gave us pause, like, oh, geez, it was a mental asylum, and now we're going to be living there. And so it comes to the day of moving in, and anybody that's moved to a new apartment or new house, you know how excited you are. It's a new adventure. It's going to be great. Everything's going smoothly. We meet the movers there. They started unloading the truck, these 3 movers. We're about 2/3 the way done. It's a really humid July afternoon. And my brother and my sister-in-law come over with their 2-year-old daughter. Her name's Erin. And the best way to think of Erin, she's a beautiful girl with jet black hair, big, wide brown eyes. She kind of looks like that girl Coraline from the movie, the Coraline movie. Yeah, and it's a beautiful little girl. So things are getting hectic because the movers are trying to get finished up. It looks like a storm is going to blow in. And we're talking to Billy and Eileen, my brother and sister-in-law, and the movers kept bugging us. And after about 10 minutes, my sister-in-law was like, where's Erin? And she's like, where's Erin? And she goes, let me go check around the backyard. And she disappears, and then she comes back, and she's like, I can't find her. And she's starting to get nervous. And so we split up, and we're looking around in the yard. I go in the house. I'm like just poking my head in each room, thinking that I'm going to hear any second they found her. I come back out, and my sister-in-law is starting to freak out, and she's like shaking and crying. And she's like, oh, my God, where is she? And so you have to remember, all the fields around us are big pits because they're building basements. We're in the construction zone. And plus we have this old house. So I'm like, all right, let me go back in and check. And there's so many closets and little cubby holes everywhere that I'm starting to freak out. And I go to the mantle in the living room, and I'm like touching it, thinking it's going to be like the Frankenstein movie where there's a portal to a back room or something. And I'm getting nervous because I can hear them yelling. And the movers had asked me, had noticed how nervous we were getting, and then my sister-in-law was actually calling the cops. We hadn't even moved in, and we're calling the cops, and we can't find her. And the supervisor asks, should we stop and go help you find her? Help find them. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. Go look. Start walking through the yards and stuff. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I worked for a moving company in college, And you know, some of these guys are only a level above carnies, you know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, could it be one of these guys? And I'm really like, we're like freaking out because it's now been like 20-25 minutes and we can't find her. And so I say, all right, I'm going to check every little hole everywhere in the house. And we have one spot in the basement that's kind of like that last, it's under the oldest part of the house. And you ever see the last, the Blair Witch Project, the very last scene? It's kind of like that's, you know, I'm looking in there and I'm starting to get creeped out of this house that, you know, I just put all, you know, just spent my life savings on, and now my niece it's this hellhole Amityville house has swallowed up my niece. And so I go running up, I'm checking every cubby hole, I get up to the attic, and I look out the attic window at the construction sites, and the moving guys and my brother, the moving guys are sweeping across like a CSI episode looking for, you know, the body. And I'm just like, and I'm thinking to myself, and this is the most horrific thought, that, oh my God, we're not going to find my niece, and I haven't even slept in this house, and I'm not going to be able to sell it, and I lost my life savings, and I am just totally beside myself. And so as I'm thumping down the steps, you know, I hear a car door stop, and my sister-in-law starts talking to the police officer, and all of a sudden my brother yells, I found her, and I go into the living room, and here is my brother, my brother was like the all-Catholic football player of us, and he's like crying, like he's so relieved. And here there was a side door that had about a 2-foot spot between the outside and inside, and she had gotten down there. So as I turn in, and my brother's like, wants to yell at her, but he's crying, and he's like, what the hell were you doing? Why didn't you answer us? And she goes, Daddy, I told you we were going to play hide and seek. And so we've been in the house for 16 years now. My mother-in-law and my sister have both told me they've seen ghosts, but nothing has spooked me as much as the first day in the house. So that's it.
Jim Breslin, everybody.